Intelligence has long been regarded as humanity's most reliable compass for navigating complex decisions and avoiding costly errors. Society places immense faith in high IQ scores, advanced degrees, and specialized expertise as guarantees of sound judgment. Yet a troubling pattern emerges when examining real-world outcomes. Some of the most intellectually gifted individuals and organizations fall prey to spectacular failures that seem inexplicable given their cognitive capabilities. This paradox reveals fundamental misconceptions about the relationship between raw intellectual ability and practical wisdom. Traditional measures of intelligence capture only narrow slices of cognitive function while overlooking crucial thinking skills that determine success in uncertain, complex environments. The consequences extend far beyond individual mistakes to encompass organizational disasters, professional blind spots, and systematic errors that persist despite access to vast knowledge and analytical resources. Understanding why intelligence sometimes backfires requires examining the hidden mechanisms that can transform cognitive strength into vulnerability, while exploring evidence-based approaches for cultivating more reliable judgment and decision-making capabilities. The downsides of intelligence, beyond IQ and academic achievement. High intelligence and extensive education create unexpected vulnerabilities that can amplify rather than reduce certain types of reasoning errors. This counterintuitive phenomenon stems from several interconnected mechanisms that transform intellectual strengths into potential liabilities when applied inappropriately or without sufficient self-awareness. Motivated reasoning represents perhaps the most insidious trap for highly intelligent individuals. Superior analytical abilities become tools for rationalization rather than truth-seeking, enabling brilliant minds to construct elaborate justifications for predetermined beliefs. The more cognitively capable the person, the more sophisticated their capacity for dismissing contradictory evidence while maintaining an illusion of objectivity. This process operates largely outside conscious awareness, making it particularly resistant to correction through traditional educational approaches. Expert knowledge introduces additional vulnerabilities through overconfidence and cognitive rigidity. Years of specialized training create automatic pattern recognition systems that excel within familiar domains, but can misfire catastrophically when facing novel situations. Experts develop such confidence in their intuitive judgments that they fail to engage more deliberate analytical processes when circumstances warrant careful consideration. This expertise-induced blindness explains why seasoned professionals sometimes miss obvious warning signs that novices readily detect. The bias blind spot affects intelligent individuals disproportionately, creating a dangerous asymmetry in self-perception. While they readily identify cognitive biases and logical fallacies in others' reasoning, they remain largely oblivious to their own susceptibility to identical errors. This metacognitive failure means that those best equipped intellectually to understand reasoning pitfalls are least likely to guard against them in their personal and professional decisions. These downsides manifest across diverse domains, from scientific research to business strategy to medical diagnosis. They reveal that raw cognitive ability, without accompanying wisdom and intellectual humility, can become a liability rather than an asset, leading to overconfidence, closed-mindedness, and systematic errors in judgment that might be avoided by those with more modest intellectual gifts but greater epistemic caution. Escaping the intelligence trap, evidence-based wisdom, and better reasoning. Breaking free from intelligence-related cognitive traps requires cultivating specific mental dispositions and reasoning skills that operate independently of traditional measures of intellectual ability. Research in cognitive science and decision theory has identified measurable qualities that consistently predict better judgment across diverse contexts, offering practical pathways for enhancing thinking effectiveness. Intellectual humility emerges as perhaps the most crucial protective factor against reasoning errors. This involves genuine recognition of knowledge limitations, appropriate uncertainty in the face of complexity, and openness to disconfirming evidence even when it challenges cherished beliefs. Unlike false modesty or general self-doubt, intellectual humility represents a calibrated awareness of what one does and does not know, enabling more accurate assessment of situations requiring careful analysis versus those suitable for quick intuitive judgments. Actively open-minded Inking provides the cognitive mechanism through which intellectual humility operates in practice. This encompasses deliberate search for alternative explanations, fair consideration of opposing viewpoints, and systematic evaluation of evidence that might contradict initial impressions. Such thinking can be developed through specific techniques, including perspective-taking exercises, devil's advocate protocols, and structured decision-making processes that force consideration of multiple scenarios before reaching conclusions. Self-distancing offers a powerful method for overcoming the emotional biases and personal investments that cloud judgment. By adopting the perspective of a neutral observer or imagining how one might view a situation from temporal distance, individuals can access more balanced reasoning capabilities. This technique helps resolve what researchers term Solomon's paradox, where people demonstrate superior wisdom when advising others compared to addressing their own identical problems. Cognitive reflection, the tendency to question initial intuitive responses and engage in more deliberate analysis when appropriate, serves as another critical component of effective reasoning. This skill involves recognizing when situations require careful thought rather than quick judgments, providing protection against various cognitive biases while preserving the efficiency benefits of intuitive processing in suitable contexts. These evidence-based approaches represent learnable capabilities rather than fixed traits, suggesting that anyone can develop more sophisticated reasoning abilities through deliberate practice and cultivation of appropriate mental habits. The art of successful learning, curiosity, growth mindset, and deep learning. Effective learning transcends mere information acquisition or skill development to encompass psychological dispositions and strategic approaches that determine whether intellectual potential translates into genuine understanding and continued growth throughout life. These factors operate independently of traditional intelligence measures, explaining why some academically gifted individuals plateau, while others with modest test scores continue developing expertise across decades. Curiosity functions as a fundamental driver of deep learning, operating almost like a biological hunger that motivates exploration and discovery. This trait influences not only what information people seek, but how effectively they process and retain it. Neuroscientific RCH reveals that curious states activate dopaminergic pathways that enhance memory formation for both target information and incidental details encountered during learning episodes. This creates spillover effects where interest in one domain facilitates knowledge acquisition across multiple areas. Growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through effort and appropriate strategies rather than being fixed traits, profoundly influences how individuals respond to challenges and setbacks. Those with growth orientations embrace difficult tasks as opportunities for improvement, while those with fixed mindsets avoid challenges that might reveal limitations. This difference becomes particularly important when facing the inevitable confusion and temporary failures that accompany genuine learning in complex domains. Desirable difficulties represent a counterintuitive principle demonstrating that learning often improves when it becomes more challenging rather than easier. Techniques such as spacing practice over time, interleaving different topics, and engaging in productive struggle enhance long-term retention and transfer, even though they may reduce immediate performance or subjective feelings of learning progress. This principle challenges common educational practices that prioritize fluency and ease of comprehension over deeper understanding. The convergence of curiosity, growth mindset, and strategic learning approaches creates powerful foundations for intellectual development that extend throughout life. These qualities not only enhance academic and professional performance, but also promote the kind of flexible, open-minded thinking that protects against the rigidity and overconfidence that can trap even highly intelligent individuals when facing novel or complex challenges. Collective intelligence and organizational wisdom beyond individual thinking. Intelligence traps extend beyond individual cognition to affect entire organizations and groups, where collective blind spots and systematic biases can lead to catastrophic failures despite the presence of highly capable team members. Understanding these group-level phenomena reveals both the limitations of individual intelligence and the potential for developing more effective collective reasoning processes. Organizational cultures often amplify rather than correct individual cognitive biases, creating environments where intelligent people reinforce each other's errors rather than providing necessary checks and balances. Groupthink, confirmation bias, and hierarchical deference combine to suppress dissenting voices and alternative perspectives, leading to decisions that no single member would make independently. These dynamics prove particularly dangerous when teams consist entirely of high-status experts who share similar AR backgrounds and assumptions. Team composition and interaction patterns significantly influence collective intelligence, which depends less on the average IQ of members than on factors such as psychological safety, diversity of perspectives, and effective communication norms. High-performing teams create environments where members feel comfortable expressing uncertainty, admitting mistakes, and challenging prevailing assumptions without fear of social or professional consequences. Social sensitivity and equal participation prove more predictive of group success than individual brilliance or technical expertise. Effective organizational learning requires systems and processes that counteract natural human tendencies toward overconfidence and bias confirmation. This includes structured decision-making procedures, institutionalized devil's advocate roles, systematic postmortems that examine both successes and failures, and reward systems that encourage the identification of problems rather than their concealment. Organizations that successfully institutionalize intellectual humility and actively open-minded thinking consistently outperform those that rely solely on individual expertise or technical competence. Leadership plays a crucial role in modeling and promoting collective wisdom, with the most effective leaders demonstrating intellectual humility, curiosity, and genuine openness to feedback from subordinates. They create cultures where questioning assumptions and admitting uncertainty are valued rather than penalized, enabling organizations to adapt and learn more effectively in rapidly changing environments. The development of collective intelligence represents a critical challenge for modern institutions operating in complex, uncertain contexts where traditional hierarchical models based on individual expertise prove insufficient for navigating emerging challenges. The fundamental insight emerging from this analysis concerns the critical distinction between computational intelligence and practical wisdom. Traditional measures of cognitive ability predict performance on abstract reasoning tasks, but fail to capture the metacognitive skills, emotional regulation, and intellectual humility required for effective real-world decision-making. This gap explains why highly intelligent individuals and organizations often fall victim to predictable errors that seem obvious in retrospect, while others with more modest credentials demonstrate superior judgment through systematic application of evidence-based reasoning principles. The path forward involves expanding conceptions of human cognitive potential beyond narrow technical abilities toward more comprehensive frameworks that integrate analytical thinking with curiosity, growth mindset, and collaborative capacity. These capabilities can be systematically developed through deliberate practice and institutional design, creating opportunities for individuals and organizations to transcend the limitations that pure intelligence alone cannot overcome. Such development becomes increasingly crucial as complex global challenges require not just computational power, but the nuanced judgment that emerges from intellectual humility, reflective thinking, and collective wisdom.